Hello and welcome to the Power Her Africa series, where we sit down and have conversations with women in tech from academia, women who are entrepreneurs, from the government space, and really find out from them, including corporate as well, and find out from them, what is happening in their space, looking at conversations around what is happening with the advancement of women in these various sectors, but also looking at gaps and opportunities that exist for you who are joining us, that you can think about how you can come into partnership and take advantage of those opportunities. My name is Nziki Mkize. I am the founder of Mentor, which is a global mentorship network supporting female social entrepreneurs, and the founding editor of Mentor magazine, which aims to inspire, connect, and empower our wide network of readers. And for today, I will be your host, and I'm super excited to have today's conversation because it's about blockchain. So if you watch ads, I'm not sure if we have the same algorithm on our social media. I get a lot of those. Sign up for this, buy this online, get this blockchain, get this currency. And I'm always like, okay, that's great, but what is actually going on? So we have fantastic experts that are joining us today as we discuss blockchain. What is it? What's it about? What are the trends? And most importantly, why should you care about it? Just to come in and frame the conversation for us, this Power series is brought to you in partnership with Seed South Capital and Women in Tech South Africa. So I would like to welcome to our virtual room, Ms. Nadia, who is joining us all the way from Dubai, just to share with us from a Seed South Capital perspective why this event is important and why the series of conversations is important. And then after her jumping onto our screen, you'll be able to see Melissa Slaymaker. Welcome, Nadia.
Hi, Nziki. Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm really excited about this session of Power Her. I am South African, been based in Dubai for the past 5 years, but I see a lot of the innovation happening on this side, and I see where it's going in terms of Africa and South Africa, and I truly believe that blockchain will fundamentally change the face of how we do business in Africa and the wealth share that occurs from it. So we thought from Seed South Capital's part is to just start the conversation and cultivate a network around this particular topic. So Power Her is a brainchild of Seed South Capital and Women in Tech, and it's about access to network, creating access to network for female leaders, access to capital. So I'll explain a little bit about Seed South Capital, and just acknowledging the amazing women doing groundbreaking work in business and in life, because those don't work separately here. So as you mentioned, I'm based in Dubai. Seed South Capital, we are a fund. We've been a focus on commercialization for research and development, IP, and working very closely with government. But also we will be focusing on early stage entrepreneurs who have products that are already in the market. So it's just bridging that gap for commercialization, being the agent for government for commercialization, and then also funding the amazing entrepreneurs on the ground. I also work as a female angel in Dubai, as part of that network, and sit on the board for Women in Tech. And that is where I'll hand over to Melissa to give you a little bit of background on Women in Tech as well. So thanks, and I'm really looking forward to the conversation.
Thank you, Nadia. So I'm Melissa Slaymaker, and I'm the country director for South Africa for Women in Tech. And I'm also the Talent Hub director for Women in Tech Global. So I do wear kind of a dual hat. But Women in Tech really is all around helping women and girls embrace technology and STEM to help them have those options for careers in the future and to bridge the gender gap within the STEM industry. We have globally over 24 chapters, with the Malaysia chapter opening today. So a growing organization that really helps women and girls to not only give access to the technology by, in South Africa, we have computer donations, and we've recently built a IT learning center in Philippi Village in Cape Town. but also around programs to help empower women through confidence building, mentorship, and so much more. So it really is a network where we are trying to get people to collaborate and to connect and to just give access and empower each other, and to talk about topics like blockchain, like we are going to talk about today, to understand what is it like to be in a career in blockchain? What does it mean for me if I'm choosing subjects at school or working, about to graduate university or working in the industry and wanting to change lanes? Is it, what is it about? Is it too late? Can I still do it? How do I get the information? So I'm really keen and interested to find out from the speakers today about, all things blockchain. What are the challenges? What are the opportunities? And what does it mean for women in tech in Africa to be involved in blockchain? So thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Melissa and Nadia. As representatives of both Sea South Capital and Women in Tech, it's really great to hear the heart behind this Power Her Africa series conversation. And so without further ado, I'm going to welcome our group of panelists for today. And before I welcome them, I just want to say hi to everyone who's commented in the chat section. So I see Chris is joining us from Portugal, exciting. Rosana's joining us from South Africa. Amina's joining from Malaysia. I think that's where we've just launched a new chapter. So woohoo, that's exciting. Nadia's joining us from Dubai. And if you haven't put in the comments yet, we'd love to know where you are so we can connect and keep this conversation going, but also expand our networks and expand, the people that you know in different countries and find out the different projects that they are working on. So I'm going to introduce our panelists, and they are a phenomenal group of women who have dynamic careers, a dynamic background, and I think we're going to enjoy the time we spend together with them this afternoon, picking their brains a little bit around their experience, where the gaps are, what blockchain is, and how you can take advantage of community. And you'll see all their cameras that are already on, so you can quickly find them on your screen. So first up is Merrill Ford. She's on the far left of my screen. She is a digital transformation specialist at the Center for Robotics and Future Production at the Manufacturing Cluster of the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research. So welcome to you, Merrill. Welcome also to Pretty. She is on my right-hand side, so hopefully you can find her with the lovely red painting in the background. But Merrill has the guitars behind her. Pretty is the co-founder of Coronet Blockchain. And then the final lady joining our panel is Monica Singer, and she's a professor on blockchain technology and a board member and consensus lead. Welcome to you, Monica. She has that lovely background that makes me wish I was back at the beach. Welcome, ladies. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. Before we get into the serious chat, I think it's always lovely for people to know who they are speaking to. So going in the order of introduction, Merrill, Pretty, then Monica. I'd just like to give you each just a quick second to let us know a little bit more about you and share any exciting stuff that is happening in your workspace at the moment. I know as an entrepreneur, I sometimes live vicariously through other people. So this is like my juicy moment where I get to hear the exciting stuff that's happening out there in the world. So starting with you, Merrill, you may unmute yourself and welcome.
Thanks very much, Nsiki. So yeah, I guess you could call me an aged geek. Unfortunately, I'm not as young as some of you over there, but I'm passionate about technology. I believe technology can make a difference. I believe technology can make a better world for everyone. Around, exciting projects we're doing kind of multiple blockchain related projects. I'm excited about two of them. The first is we're creating something called Ilima, which is focused on emerging farmers in South Africa. And the idea is to use blockchain to enable them to take a farm to fork approach for their supply chain, so they can start competing with the bigger guys out there, the bigger farmers, commercial farmers out there. And the other thing that is very exciting is work that we're doing as part of a consortium being driven by BankServe Africa. And basically what the consortium is looking at is the concept of digital identity. How can we make it a reality in South Africa? And hopefully I'll be able to tell you a bit more about that later on. Thanks.
Love it. Thank you so much, Merrill. I will encourage you guys that we are active on social media, right? So when you hear something cool, like I like what Merrill just said, from digital to folk, I think it was, hashtag and share those things on social media at the South Capital and at Women in Tech South Africa. Pretty, welcome.
Hi, Nsegi. Thank you so much. Hi, everybody. Our technology, the first use case that we were working on is within the beauty sector. But now one of the exciting stuff that is happening, we have started using and building some use cases and pilot programs for the fashion industry, especially for the Made in Africa types of brands. So we are working with a number of notable designers across the African continent, and we are making their products to be available for the international market as well. We are also testing our technology within food as well. So that's one of the most exciting stuff. We are also, because now that we are creating this ecosystem of ethical supply chain participants within fashion, within food, within the beauty sector, we have launched a program which is called Coronet 48, where we help them to be branded very well, so that when we are together in one platform, everybody has got an exquisite branding, everybody has got a lot of all the system that actually need, so that we look the same. So we want to make it as easy as possible for women, because mostly it's women that we work with them, to participate in the Web3. So we are using every resource that we have, from technology to media to educations like similar to this one.
I love that. Thank you so much, Pretty. And you have some lovely support in the room. Anne is an Indian in Switzerland, and she's joined specifically because she wanted to hear from you. Welcome. And my screen has just jumped to 2 pages. So thanks to everyone who's just joined us. And finally, Monica, welcome.
Hi, thank you. Thank you for having me. So I work remotely from Cape Town. I work for the biggest blockchain company in the world called Consensus. One of the key products that we have is MetaMask. MetaMask is a self-custodial wallet that more than 21 million people have downloaded and are using it. We believe in going bankless. We believe in freedom, financial freedom for everyone. And therefore, what we have built is all the technology so that we can ensure that everybody can be financially independent. So my role is education. I love education. I know that this technology is not that simple to use. I'm a baby boomer, and I can assure you that when I look at MetaMask, I go, oh my gosh, okay. So I had to learn the hard way. So I need to bring, especially the baby boomers, into the 21st century and take the fear out of Web 3.0, because, you know, let's be honest, our generation were brought up thinking that they had to rely on intermediaries and trust other people to look after themselves. And in the new generation, what we know is that we can look after ourselves and we can empower everybody, no matter where you come from, no matter who you are, no matter where you live. And that is our motto, is to reach not only the unbanked, but the underbanked and everybody in the world. So we are building all those tools, but my job is to make sure that I make it so easy that even my grandmother can use it. That's it.
I absolutely love that. Thank you so much, Monica. And I think that's really part of the beauty of technology, that you can make it accessible and you can take people who've been previously excluded, people who previously haven't had access, and bring them up to the same level as everybody else with just a simple device. So that's exciting, and I'm looking forward to hearing more about that later on in our conversation. But first, I want to start with an aspect around mentorship. You know, there's a quote by John C. Crosby, and he always says that a mentor is a brain to pick, an ear to listen, and a push in the right direction. And I like, Monica, that you mentioned in the beginning that you're a baby boomer now in blockchain. And I'm sure there's people who've joined us, especially younger people who might be starting their careers or thinking about what to study, and they're thinking, I don't even know how to chart this path. What's a little bit of your background, Monica? How did you end up in the blockchain space?
So I'm a chartered accountant by training, but 25 years ago, I was asked to convert the South African financial markets from physical to digital. So there used to be share certificates and checks. So I eliminated all that, and I created what is called the Central Securities Depository, and I became the CEO, ran it for 20 years. And then one day I read Satoshi's paper and I literally started crying. Why? Because for 20 years after building this very complex centralized ledger with lots of intermediaries, I was never able to give the investors the ability to talk to each other. I was not able to give the listed companies the ability to see real time what shares are being traded. And then as a chartered accountant, ex-auditor, I was always trying to prevent corruption and fraud. And in all those areas for so many years, fail. And then Satoshi says, guys, you got it all wrong. You've been centralizing, you've been putting intermediaries and trusting all these people and charging and delays. It takes 3 days for a transaction to settle. Satoshi says, you should decentralize, create the trust in the code, go peer-to-peer, get an immutable ledger so nobody can delete it, make sure everybody can see the same ledger at the same time. And I thought, oh my God, the world is going to change. So I went to my board and said, guys, listen, unless we change, we're going to be disrupted. The board didn't believe me. And then I thought, you know what? I'm not sitting in the Titanic rearranging the chairs. So I resigned from the castle. I was a queen, imagine, the CEO of a very famous company. I thought, I'm out of here. And then I joined the plebs. Consensus was just starting, a startup, real startup. It was chaos. It was scary. But you know what? I've never been happier. You know, it really has been an amazing journey because Consensus vision is Satoshi's vision. So that's what I'm helping build, you know, amongst all the team members, Satoshi's vision.
I absolutely think that is so phenomenal. Such a great story, not just pivoting, but also going, the industry itself is being disrupted, you know, so how do I not just move with the trend, but also get ahead of the curve as well? And I think blockchain is one of those things that's constantly challenging us in the way that we do things and how we see things, and deconstructing what the future and looks like. And something that comes up frequently is that aspect of decentralization. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. Merrill, from your side, you know, from research and strategy in the blockchain perspective, how does one end up in that space?
I guess I'm not a traditional researcher. I'm more a computer scientist. So, I mean, I first kind of heard about Bitcoin in I think it was round about 2013, when I was buying something from Takealot, which is an online store here in South Africa. And at the bottom of the page, it said pay in Bitcoin, and it had a whole lot of like weird characters and numbers next to it. And I thought, what the heck is that? I've never seen that before. So, you know, I kind of read up a bit about it, but at that stage, yeah, it was all kind of the Wild West. It still is actually to some extent. And I thought, no, I'm not sure about this thing. And then in around about 2017, when all of a sudden we started seeing reports, newspaper articles about this amazing blockchain called Ethereum and how it's expanded in the past year and how the tokens have become, you know, have gone up 20,000% or whatever it was in 2017. I thought, okay, now this is something I really need to get. I need to look at it. I need to kind of embrace that technology. I need to immerse myself in that technology. And that's what I did. I basically went online, was a good friend of YouTube and Google and all kinds of online forums, etc. And yeah, just made sure I really understood what it was all about. And in those days, that was all you could do because there was no traditional like courses you could go on to say, okay, what is blockchain and how can it help me, etc. You had to kind of do it yourself. So yeah, so that's how I started. And, you know, from there on, I kind of got people excited. I got the Department of Science and Innovation excited about the technology. They were starting to look at kind of emerging technologies within the fourth industrial revolution. They were mostly focused on Internet of Things and AI. And I said, hey, you guys need to look at this whole blockchain environment. And they said, oh, okay, well then it looks interesting. Why don't you write a strategy? And I wrote a national strategy for the department. And yeah, and part of that strategy, I said, well, listen, we can't do this alone. You know, the days of working in silos as researchers and as innovators, as startups, as business, you know, those days are past. Let's look at how we can actually work together in a kind of an ecosystem to drive blockchain forward in the country. And so the department funded the creation of something called the South African National Blockchain Alliance, or SANBA. And that's what we're trying to do in SANBA at the moment. So we're trying to look at how we can catalyze this kind of Team South Africa approach to kind of bootstrap the use of blockchain in the country.
Such a great journey, Merrill. Thank you so much for sharing with us. And I specifically love this platform for the opportunities of learning that it presents. And I didn't know we actually had a South African blockchain forum that was working on things. So I've learned something new. I'm definitely going to Google that after this. Brittany, let's come to you. I looked you up on LinkedIn, and I love that your banner says blockchain for social good. You know, so as an entrepreneur, figuring out where you fit as an entrepreneur, and then in the fashion space, and then leveraging blockchain, what has your journey looked like?
Thanks, Degi. We actually got into blockchain because we had lots of problems. So it is very true that blockchain is a solution looking for problems. So we were approached by an ex-colleague who used to work with my co-founder Shadrach for Deloitte, and the department have closed. So she got retrenched from work, and she has had this hair extension side hustle. You know, as women in SA, we always have a side hustle here and there. So now that she didn't have a corporate job, she wanted to make it her main hustle. And she was like, okay, I'm begging to run an informal business. I can't because I work in corporate. So I need system. I need this to be organized. And it was an exciting challenge when she brought it to us, because we wanted this business that started for just 5,000 Rand in 3 years to either be such a strong brand that we can franchise it, or we can invite investors to finance it so that it can be a dominant brand that is available in all major cities, or we can actually sell it. So we began with that end in mind from the very beginning. We put this systems in place, and within 36 months, it was bringing in 30 million rands every year. We had full-time staff of 40, and we had 4 branches across Durban, Johannesburg, and Cape Town. 2 of those, we put them in on 5-star hotels because we just wanted to charge unreasonable prices for just being in a hotel, and to kind of make the brand to be more premium. So it was such a good success story for a South African market where, I mean, you can start a business for 5,000 and 3 years later you're employing 40 people. And not only that, it was like a watershed moment for the industry, because people that worked there were sustainable employed. They could buy cars, they could buy houses, their children were going to private schooling system. Even though that was not really our KPIs, we're all about balance sheet. But when we started interviewing them with the media that came to interview, those were the things that stood out. Those were the things that made headlines. So now we started getting approached by many brands in beauty and fashion across the African continent that wanted the same success. And not only that, we got approached by mainstream retail as well, saying, you know what, we want this kind of products. We've been trying to source it. It's been difficult. So that's when real questions started coming in, because we know that we have fixed the business itself, but the product compliance, we have not touched it. So it was during that onboarding, when we were being onboarded as a supplier by Adcon and the Foschini Group, when questions like, but if this is 100% human hair product, it's an India, Remy hair, and all these quality claims we are making, Usually, if it was like genuine leather bags, we would have an authentication process. If it was organic or it was halal, we would need that that digital traceability of knowing that it is what you say. Because remember, when you buy stuff, say at Pick and Pay, people don't go to Unilever and say something is wrong with my can of beans. They go back to Pick and Pay, and Pick and Pay is in trouble. And they say, because of our name, when we sell stuff, we need to know whatever quality claim you have, you're going to sell this thing at scale. So that's when those questions started coming, and we realized that all of even the smaller retailers and salons and brands who are approaching us were facing the same problem. All of the, even the big buyers from these department stores, they would have to fly to Asia and be there in person, because trust is very thin when you buy stuff remotely, that quality is not going to be consistent all the time. So we realized that, you know what, this is not just a hair extension problem. It's actually many supply chains have got that problem when it comes to assuring the quality of product, people spending lots of money to go and source, and the downstream of supply chain that is very fragmented, and then the impact is not that good. So we started approaching a number of companies, likes of Bureau Veritas and others, and we realized they don't have any quality authentication process for products themselves. They do audit companies, but they don't audit the quality of the product. So they can't really say, we're going to guarantee you that it's going to come out consistent all the time. So that's when we started, like, but whatever solution we want it to be frontier tech, because the future is Web3. So how do we actually solve all these supply chain problems? That's when we were speaking to a family friend who's a director at IBM, said, you know what, we actually just finished a project in food for trust that we were doing with Walmart. It's in food. It's the same process that you are looking for to ensure any kind of products. It will work in your case as well. So we actually been looking to come up with an African-based type of a use case. So also they happen to have this investment program where they finance scalable startups in South Africa. So we got into the program and we started building a solution that certify and vet products. To it enables sourcing from vetted suppliers, that their manufacturing process is very traceable, and then it's got some business system that you can put through so that your business is very sustainable. And the cool part about it, because IBM did an enterprise from the word go, we wanted to design from small business going up so that it's very easy to use, it's very easy to get into. It's not just an enterprise type of a solution.
That is so exciting, Priti. I'm sure people have a lot of questions. One being, I think I'm in the wrong industry. I should have gone to blockchain from the beginning. Monica, I want to bring you back in here and find out, let's start with what blockchain actually is. And I think people often hear mostly about just crypto and they just think about currency and being able to buy things online. But from what Priti has explained, I think we often miss the amount of possibilities that blockchain represents. So for somebody who has no idea, or who thinks there's this, big cloud of a blockchain and they don't know what's going on, what is blockchain and why does it matter for Africa?
It actually matters for the whole world because it replaces the double entry bookkeeping. Double entry was created 500 years ago. And I'm a chartered accountant. So what happens is when you do the books and records, you record your books and records individually. So I record my books, you record your books, and and let's assume I buy something from you. When you record your journal entries, I don't care what you put in your books, and you don't care what I put in my books. And therefore, we rely on an auditor to come and check my books that I didn't cheat. You rely on an auditor to make sure you didn't cheat. And therefore, we always rely on an intermediary after the effect. So Satoshi says, what if, because we know people cheat, no? So what if we take the power of cheating away from humans and we do the following? Every time the journal entries happen, everybody can see the same journal entry at the same time. So imagine if you've got witnesses. So you've got the buyer, the seller, the auditor of the buyer, the auditor of the seller, the regulators, the taxman, everybody can see everything at the same time. In the story that Priti tells you in supply chain, you can see from the time the product gets harvested until the product gets sold in the till, everybody, all those people that made it possible for the goods to arrive at the restaurant or at the retailer, everybody gets to see when things are moving in the supply chain. So nobody can cheat because it's recorded in this ledger. And Satoshi made it even more magical. It said, not only everybody's going to see the same version of the truth, the ledger would be decentralized so that it's going to be in the internet and it's going to be in many, many places. And when you enter the transaction, nobody can delete it. It's not like Excel spreadsheet. You can press delete and amend. It's immutable. And on top of that, because I don't trust anybody, I'm going to put a mathematical formula. This is Satoshi. A mathematical formula that will prevent all of you from cheating. Because if you cheat, there's going to be like a price. You're going to pay for cheating. So in Bitcoin, the payment is called proof of work. It's a mathematical formula, and you have to use electricity. In Ethereum, we're moving to proof of stake. You're going to lose money if you cheat. So can you see that Satoshi didn't trust anybody, put the trust in the code? And that's why I believe that this technology, it's a game changer for every industry, but specifically for governments. If a government is committed to eradicating corruption, it should implement this type of technology because it's absolutely transparent as to where the money goes. The taxes can be paid real time. People can get social grants in real time. And there's so many benefits for uplifting communities, especially in Africa. You know why, especially in Africa? Because we don't have this like, oh, we've been doing this for 100 million years, and why are you changing this? There's so many things we don't have. So we can now spearhead the whole world and do what's right for the people of the various countries, and not worry so much about the intermediaries that are going to be disrupted by this technology. Does it make sense? Why it's going to be so dramatic?
Yeah, no, it completely makes sense. And I think for all of those reasons, that's why I think blockchain is fantastic in Africa, and I think in other countries where people haven't been doing things for centuries, where you can all of a sudden look at social ills, look at where people have not been included and go, this is how we quickly bridge that gap, and everyone can come along with us. I'm sure somebody's wondering, what is the rate of adaptation? You know, how quickly is this happening? You know, sometimes I think we hear about trends and it seems like they are being quickly adopted in the West. But when we look at Africa, you know, what does this transaction look like? At what point in the future will we all be digital? Will we all be on blockchain? You know, what are sort of the timelines that we're looking at?
You know, I always say gradual, sudden. You're going to wake up one morning and think, my God, what happened here? Because it's happening. Everything that, you know, you just have to look at what's happening with non-fungible tokens, gaming. The kids in Philippines are making at least, what, $500 a month from nothing, just by playing a game. So, and this is a technology we want to bring to our kids in Africa. Imagine that by gaming, you can earn a living, as opposed to, you know, there's going to be so many new jobs and so many industries that are going to be able to be given to children. So I really think I don't waste too much time with the baby boomers. I really prefer to spend time with a younger generation that gets it and that are hungry, and they know that the only thing they need is access to the internet, and then the world is for them. Yeah, so this is happening as we speak, and the sooner everybody gets on board, the better.
I like that. And I'm so glad, Monica, you are saying that, and that can be baby boomer to baby boomer, because it's not just the technology that's disrupting. But I think a lot of parents are going to be like, what do you mean you're making money sitting on the couch playing a game? And we definitely need moms out there to translate that message so we're not getting into trouble for doing nothing. Priti, I saw your hand was up, but I also want to come to you because a lot of the opportunities that Monica was speaking to, the social good aspect that I think you have identified. And I'm curious from your perspective, you know, how do entrepreneurs translate what they do to be able to exist in a blockchain context?
Thank you so much. No, I was just clapping for Professor Monica. I wasn't raising your hand to speak, but to answer what you are saying, the use of blockchain most of the time is one, the problem that you have, is it scalable enough? Because blockchain is really a technology of scale. So if the problem, like in our case, we already had a supplier agreement with big retailers. We had thousands of brands across Africa insisting of the program. We have a number of industries as well wanting the same type of a success and facing the same kinds of problems. So we had that at scale. The cost was just too much. In Africa alone, 9 million women are sold counterfeits hair every year. Out of I think it's a $7 billion US dollars industry. So about 40% of that is actually wasted money because they don't really get. So the cost is very high of not fixing the problem itself. So when we created that from an entrepreneurship perspective, we had that bigger problems that was at scale, and there was a lot of money that the industry was actually bleeding if we don't solve the problem. And funny enough, we started building in 2019 where nobody could actually go now and observe their manufacturers remotely. So even the most stubborn people that didn't believe in it, they realized like, oh no, so we can't go and be there. Like, why were you going? Like, this thing was supposed to be done by a machine anyways, because they were losing about 40,000 US dollars per brand. You can build a house for that and just order your inventory on the phone.
Thank you, Priti. And I think that aspect around scalability and making sure that you can solve the same problem for a lot of people in different places is a very key one. Before I head over to Merrill, there's a comment here from Lenore saying, great discussion. I'm a baby boomer chartered accountant on a fast learning path myself to try and help get our legacy-minded beanies and financiers out there to understand and believe in this technology. And that's true, it's getting people to believe and to jump on it and to see the value and the benefit of it. And Merrill, I know you have a few comments, so I'm going to let you share some of your feedback, but also what I wanted to ask you, Merrill, is to be able to adapt this technology, to be able to participate, what do our ecosystems, specifically in the South African context, look like? You know, do we have the right kind of ecosystems that can enable us to take this on?
Okay, so I mean, I just want to kind of also like give a hand of applause to Monica. That was an excellent description of what blockchain is, one of the best I've heard, because you made it so understandable. And then I also wanted to say that, you know, what we shouldn't underestimate is that if you look at the biggest use case for blockchain at the moment, it's cryptocurrencies. So what's happening at the moment is there's going to be a huge disruption of traditional financial systems in the world, okay? And obviously the people in charge of those financial systems are the rich and powerful. So I'm saying don't underestimate the power they have to try and stop these things from happening, because what blockchain does is it creates an equal platform for everyone to participate and to actually make a life for themselves using, for example, cryptocurrencies and digital assets and that kind of thing. So let's not underestimate the power of people trying to block blockchain, Bitcoin, and cryptocurrencies. It's a real problem in the world at the moment. So technically, we could go tomorrow and do most of the things that we currently do via centralized facilitators. We could actually do it by trusting the code, but there's a big pushback from the rich and powerful, and that includes countries, etc. It makes them uncomfortable. The whole concept makes them uncomfortable. Okay, your question about the ecosystem, I think if you look at the blockchain ecosystem in the country, we've kind of created a picture that kind of identifies all of the players. It looks at the markets, it looks at funding opportunities. It looks at things like research and development. It looks at startups. It looks at education. It looks at government support, et cetera, So the major problem we have at the moment is lack of skills in the country. We have some excellent top quality blockchain developers, but not enough. We don't have our universities embracing blockchain. You can't, other than at UCT, and I think UJ are starting to move there, and that's at a postgraduate level. You know, we need to see blockchain as part of the curriculum at universities in the country, and that's not happening yet in South Africa. The other issue is our startups, our wonderful startups like Pretty and Shadrach. I mean, I'm so impressed with what they've done. I mean, I just can't explain how fantastic and how excited I was the first time I spoke to them, probably about a year, 18 months ago, Pretty. And it's very hard for them to get started. I mean, there's lack of access to funding, risky early stage funding. That's a major problem we have in the country at the moment. And then there's also a lack of knowledge and education amongst government. Some of the challenges that are starting to emerge are regulatory challenges, for example. How do you regulate this thing that you don't control? You know, you've got nodes around the world that keep copies of this blockchain. You have all kinds of interesting new technologies like non-fungible tokens, the metaverse. How are you going to manage and control the metaverse? The metaverse sits in the cloud. So this is something that many governments are grappling with at the moment. And there's a huge need for understanding and some kind of a regulation, but without stifling innovation. So that to me is where the gaps are in the ecosystem at the moment.
Yeah, and I think those gaps aren't just peculiar or specific to Africa, but I think those apply in a lot of different contexts as well. Merrill, is there anyone who's doing it well? You know, an organization, a government somewhere in the world, a startup, a corporate, whatever it is there an example of a case of someone who's, and even at a very low entry level place, that has taken this on and is really using it well? And I mean, I'll also open that to Monica and Pretty, if you have a great example that you can share with us that other people can kind of go look at as a case study and go, okay, if I can get my mind around this, I can get there. Merrill?
Yes. So there's a good example of a South African entrepreneur who started a blockchain initiative called YOMA. He was funded by UNICEF initially, and the idea is to you basically enable young people to develop a kind of a CV of activities that they've participated in, whether it's volunteer work, whether it's your CV because you went to university and you worked, et cetera. So what it enables is for those youngsters to use that their YOMA wallets to prove that they have those particular skills and they have participated in those volunteer activities. And the platform then matchmakes them with potential employers. So it kind of supports them in finding jobs by creating what's called a verifiable credential. So it's a provable credential that shows that you actually have done what you've said you've done. I mean, nowadays, you know, you can write your CV and, you know, very seldom do people go and check every single thing that's in your CV. We've had lots of terrible examples at a high level in South Africa with regard to that. So I'm quite excited about that project. And then I'm also excited about the digital identity project that I spoke about earlier. I mean, imagine if you could have the equivalent of the wallet that sits in your pocket, have the equivalent as a digital wallet that contains all of your credentials. So let's say your ID book, your ID card is a digital version in this wallet. Your degree is in a digital version digital version on the wallet. Your driver's license, your vaccination certificate, let's say, et cetera, et cetera. And imagine if you know, nowadays it's so painful actually opening up a new bank account or even just going to a new cell phone. I mean, having to prove you are who you say you are as part of the whole KYC progress, the FICA, RICA regulations. Imagine if you only had to do it once and proof of that RICA was in this wallet. So instead of you actually photocopying your ID and photocopying all kinds of other private information and giving it to a stranger over in a bank, you know, they basically just scan in your details. And that's what this project is aiming to do. This project is aiming to actually develop this digital identity ecosystem for South Africa that's supported by both the private sector and the public sector and government, academia, et cetera, So that's very exciting. It'll be a while before that becomes a reality, but we kind of making big progress in that environment.
So that is very exciting. And for me, if it's one thing I really dislike is paperwork. And if they can add in over car renewals and everything else that I need to do mandatorily every year, I'll be very happy with that. I know Melissa had her hand up and she has a fantastic case to share with us. So Melissa, I'd like to invite you into the conversation and chat to us a bit more about the launch that happened yesterday.
Oh, I just wanted to chat because Merrill was mentioning about the NFTs, and I thought, oh, I have to mention myself and Nadia was just saying how incredible the launch was of our Malaysia chapter. That part of their launch today, they actually released 200 Women in Tech NFTs as part of their launch, just kind of showing how we are as women in tech really pro technology. We're pro, you know, growing in with blockchain. We want to empower more of our women and girls in our network with those technologies. So I just thought I'd mention it because I think it's just it goes to show that this is the future and people need to really be aware of what's going on and how they could potentially benefit you know, from all of these opportunities. Thanks
so much for sharing that with us, Melissa. I think that's such a great, I saw Nadia just unmuted herself as well. Nadia,
yeah, and thanks, Nsiki. I'll jump in and jump back out. But for me, it's something that Monica actually said as well, where it's about it's the technology is spearheading throughout the whole world, and it's almost that gender gap where women are really fighting to bridge. They don't need to bridge anymore. If women just upskill themselves on blockchain, they will be the only skill available in the market to do this. So for me, it is not only about financial wealth creation for all, working towards just decentralization and giving power back to the people, but for women especially, it's an opportunity for us to just not worry about scrambling to bridge the gap, but actually just leap right over it. And if South African women start taking this seriously from a university, and don't wait for the universities to give you the opportunity. Go online. There are plenty of universities, India, all over, where it's not so expensive, like in the UK or the US. Go teach yourself. And then when in 2 years' time, where corporates are scrambling to hire because, oh my gosh, we've got to keep up, you're going to be the only ones available. So for me, it is so important to get this message out to women, especially, and just make it, demystify it, like pretty making it just out there where a tangible, where women can just go and teach yourself and not rely on others to have to do it for you, because we will then leap the gap.
I absolutely love that, Nadia. 100% correct. Yes, Monica.
So I just want to quickly tell you my story. You know, I'm a professor. How did I become a professor? I don't have a PhD. Very simply, I have self-taught myself. So I learned so much on my own, and I went to the university and I was able to teach the professors at university about blockchain. So then they realized that they better make me a professor of practice because I knew more than them. So what I'm saying to you, which I'm happy to share, I've got a list that I've been putting together of all the podcasts, all the newsletters, all the YouTubes, all the websites. If you want to learn on your own, you don't need to pay anybody. You just need to be disciplined. I study 3 hours a day, every day. I'm not kidding. Every day, because so much is happening every day that I'm always behind. If you come to my house, I've got piles and piles of documents that I print. So when I've got a minute in the toilet, in the whatever, I read, because it's the only way to catch up. So eventually you will have to become more specialized. Like Merrill is passionate about self-sovereign identity, and Pretty is passionate about supply chain. In my case, because I became obsessed with this industry, I had to learn about everything. But now, slowly but surely, because information overload, I'm having to decide where I'm going to truly specialize. But what I'm saying is, what Nadia was saying is true. This is our chance. You know, in the DeFi world, nobody asks you who you are. Nobody asks you where you're from, what's your name, are you a woman, have you got a husband, or they just want to know, have you got collateral? So you put collateral, and then you can get loans, you can get yield, you can get staking, you can do whatever you want. You just need to know what you're doing. So what I'm saying is, this is a chance for women, once and for all, to liberate ourselves. We don't even have to tell our husbands how much we earn. You keep your crypto hidden from everybody. It's your business, nobody else's. And you can carry this crypto wherever you go, actually. So freedom, empowerment, this is our chance to do it.
That's so true, Monica. Freedom, empowerment, and security. There's a comment here from Lenore, and she was saying that she was a victim of identity theft and would love to know more on the subject of digital identity and how to engage in such a project. So I'll just ask Merrill, I don't know if there's a website or something that you can pop in the chat for Lenore and anybody else who is interested in finding out more about that. And then Puteri, who's joining us from Malaysia, so kindly shared a link in here that is a platform that offers blockchain certification. So if you are today, after this conversation, feeling geared up and ready to sit down and do your 3 hours or 30 minutes a day, and that's a platform that you can go and look at. And I think, just to segue from what Nadia was saying on, you know, how women can get ahead of the curve and be the one skill that people need, is I'd like to hear from our panelists, you know, specifically in your industry and the kinds of projects that you are working on. For ladies that are listening to this, you know, so this is, you know, if you go across the continent where people might not have lots of skills, where people might not have access to certain technologies and so forth, what's the one immediate thing that people can do to get stake in the game, to get skin in the game? Just your advice on how people can take advantage, specifically women can take advantage of blockchain today. And are there any trends that you think we should definitely be looking at that are applicable for women in South Africa, whether she knows anything about tech or not? That would be a really good place to start. Monica, you're already unmuted, so I'll go to you, then Merrill, then Kriti.
The most important thing about this technology is, like when email came out, I didn't give you a lecture how to do email. I gave you a computer, put your hands in there, start playing with the email. No, the same with blockchain. So doesn't matter, don't get involved with blockchain. The first thing you do is download a wallet of any type, buy 100 Rand, start buying Satoshis, buy crypto, sell, transfer, put it in an external wallet, do all the things to start getting used to it. Become bankless. That's the bottom line. You don't need a bank. You can do everything on your own. But start very small. Don't bet the farm. Do it slowly. Get a mentor that will guide you. There's tons of YouTube that can teach you how to do it. So that's where you start. You start by doing, number one.
So yeah, from my perspective, I agree with Monica. I think you just need to be extremely careful. Don't ever invest anything, you know, if we're talking about crypto, which is only one, I just want to make sure everyone understands this is one example of a use case. Okay, there are many other use cases, but if you're not very technical and you want to get exposed to what blockchain is, what crypto is, etc., then yeah, download a wallet, do some very high level general courses to kind of understand the concept of blockchain, because you might not have technical skills, but you may have a really good conceptual skills. So you could help design a new solution because you understand what the value of blockchain is. And you don't have to do the development yourself. You can find people that have got development skills. So the most important thing is educate yourself, do some very basic general introduction to the blockchain courses, and look inside your own environment, in your own business, in your own life. What potentially are good blockchain use cases? Is there an issue with trust in any of the business that I'm currently doing? Because blockchain, if you start looking at this whole concept of the fourth industrial revolution, of which blockchain is one of the technologies, blockchain basically provides the trust foundation for all of the other technologies. It provides this truth underneath all of the other technologies. So, get yourself, do general courses, understand it, start exposing yourself to crypto potentially, be very careful, download a wallet. There's some courses on how to write a smart contract, very basic courses, even I can do it. Just dive in and do the best you can, and you'll find a place for your skills.
Pretty, your one tip on where women can start instantly today to take advantage of blockchain and current trends.
Absolutely. I really believe that on-the-job training is one of the most effective ways to learn. So I would encourage people to get involved with startups, organizations that are actually using blockchain technology. Avail your time, avail an hour, 2 hours a week, so that you can actually learn in real life how people are using the blockchain technologies, because it's still emerging. I believe Merrill was saying it even in the beginning, that universities are still catching up a lot with the academia side of it. But this is the time where you can learn a lot about it when you actually get involved and work, shadow somebody, go and volunteer at the company, volunteer at blockchain events, so that you can get to meet the people as well that are leading and are actually participating in the technology.
Thanks, Pretty. And I think really being on the job, having your finger on the pulse is one of the best ways to learn and get around anything. We are almost at the end. So if you do have any questions, I'd like to invite you, just put them in the chat box and we will address those. Lovely resource here shared by Lenore about a global blockchain initiative that has daily webinars and content and forums, and that's free. So if you're interested, you can register for that. And then Zveli also sharing a link to Udemy, where you can get good affordable courses on blockchain, Bitcoin, Ethereum, cryptocurrency, and even smart contracts from as little as $200. So it's great because you really can find absolutely everything online. Merrill, I want to come back to you because you did mention crypto first. Quickly, why is it that crypto is the one thing that comes up most often? And what are some of the pros and cons of that?
I mean, crypto is it's quite complicated because blockchain networks have been designed to kind of build in what's called tokenization. Okay, so tokens. When you say investing in crypto, often what it means is you buy a token for a particular blockchain or for a particular product that runs on top of that blockchain. So that's what we mean by cryptocurrencies. We mentioned that you have kind of nodes running copies of the blockchain ledger on thousands of computers around the world. And obviously people don't use their computer infrastructure at no cost. So these tokens are also used in many cases to actually pay people for the use of the blockchain network. If they do your transaction, if they add your transaction to the blockchain network, they get some kind of, they get a token or multiple tokens or percentage of a token to reward them for doing that work. Okay, so cryptocurrencies are all based on that concept. You might decide that a particular blockchain network, you think it has a lot of potential in the future, it's got a good use case, etc. And you might decide then, okay, well, I want to buy the tokens for this network with the hope that other people will think this is a potential. And, it's a supply and demand thing, very kind of at a very, very rough conceptual level, similar to buying shares. Okay, it's not the same. People will crucify me for saying it, but it's kind of conceptually similar to buying shares. So that's what crypto is. Now, unfortunately, because crypto, there's a lot of money. I think it's gone down dramatically the past couple of weeks, but I think we're looking at about $2 trillion market cap. It's potentially, there's a lot of money involved, and when there's money involved, there are also scams. Okay, so your challenge is to actually really understand what you're doing. If you start investing in crypto, be very careful of scams. And when I say scams, it doesn't mean they necessarily steal your money, but often they will phone you up and say, well, what's your password? It's very similar to banking scams. Okay, so you just need to be very careful. If you're actually patient, and if you happen to be lucky enough to hit on one of the, I don't know, there are probably about 10,000 projects out there at the moment, and you invest early, then there's a potential to make a lot of money from that. Okay, yeah, it's not as easy as it sounds. So the pros are, yes, if you actually invest, and it's not a get rich quick scheme, and don't expect to get rich quick. So invest, make sure you do your own research, find out about that cryptocurrency, and invest small amounts. They always say only invest as much as you're prepared to lose. So if you're prepared to lose that money, then you can invest. And then there's that potential. The flip side is there are quite a few scams out there. Just be very, very careful and make sure you know what you're doing, because you can lose a lot of money. And most people lose more by being silly than actually they make. So yeah, so that's kind of my quick view on cryptocurrencies.
Thanks so much for that, Merrill. And I think, as with everything, have your wits about you. Monica, I want to come to you. Quick breakdown on what NFTs are, and just a quick con on NFTs.
Okay, so very quickly, non-fungible tokens. Everything will be tokenized. Imagine everything, every asset, everything, So some things are fungible, like money. So one rand is fungible with another rand, okay? One share in Anglo-American is fungible with another share in Anglo-American. That's fungible. But a building, the Burj Khalifa in Dubai, or a painting like the Mona Lisa, they're unique. That's why they're called non-fungible. So you treat them differently. And I work with Ethereum, and the standards that we use for programming fungible are different to the standards we use for non-fungible. And that's why the treatments are different. Make sense? Cool.
That's perfect. Love these quick summaries. Really, thanks for that resource. Coinbase and Binance, I hope I'm saying that correctly, all have academies that share and teach on blockchain, crypto, and NFTs. And then there's a resource shared by AA. I'm not sure what your full name is, but the acronym here just shows that it's AA. And that's just a link to a Google Drive that has some free resources that you can find online. Pretty, I want to come to you. And this is just to make sure that everyone's clear on the terms that we've gone through. Earlier on, you mentioned Web3. A quick summary on what Web3 actually is.
Thank you so much. Good question. I think most of the time when people ask what Web3 is, it's usually how is it different from Web 1 and Web 2. So if you understand Web 1, it was just a plain website where it was a read only. You can't input any anything, only the chosen ones that could pay to Web 2. So Web 2 now, everybody could actually contribute to the internet, only that it was very monarchy in its setup because we are all moving data about stuff, especially stuff around R&D, because the data that we're now contributing towards social media and the entire Web2 ecosystem was actually what companies will pay billions on to actually figure out what to sell to us. And instead of a top-down approach of them creating products, because we're just desperate, we just need a phone, it doesn't matter how it looks like. And then later on when Web2 was there, it's like, okay, who needs a brick like this? We need a phone without buttons and stuff like that. It was figured out because of Web2. So Web3 now became more decentralized because Web2 was more centralized. More information was actually controlled by few companies, and they can decide, for example, if I create assets on the internet, like videos and content, they can delete it if they want to. They can wake up one day, I have no control of that. I can't really monetize it in a way. I'm just rewarded by likes and many people actually knowing I'm creating cool stuff. So that's what was happening. But Web3 now is becoming more of a democratic type of data instead of data monarchy, where people actually own what they create on the internet. So it's more like by people, for the people. So more control is back in the hands of the people. People are creating assets and owning assets.
Perfect, Priti. Thank you so much for that. And I think if you are listening to this as somebody who's specifically outside of the tech space, if you're listening to this as somebody who is a creative, I think these are the key points that you should be taking out, that there's ways that you work around traditional systems, and blockchain presents that opportunity. Merrill also shared here that there is a YouTube channel by a South African guy called Crypto Banter, and that's something that you can check out as well for some insights. So before we wrap up our conversation, Merrill, Monica, Priti, you've shared such fantastic insights on new thinking, new approaches, opportunities, trends, concepts, decentralizing, and just coming back to you as individuals and powerhouses in this tech space. I'd like to know, what is your one power, so that one thing that makes you phenomenal when you show up, the one thing that keeps you going. What's your one power? Priti, I will start with you.
Thank you so much. I think what makes me is curiosity for me, because I grew up in a small village. So when I came into the city, everything, I was just curious about everything. So I didn't think bridges just exist. I wanted to understand the behind the scene of how do you make a bridge? I wasn't just comfortable because when we were growing up, the supply chain of eating, we saw it in the garden at the back. When we say it's a free range chicken, we saw it running in the range. So when I get to the city, there is nothing like that. So I was very curious, like, but how do they convince people it's a free range? How do people just eat it without actually knowing where things came from? So that curiosity of wanting to know how things are made, how things are created, came together so well with the blockchain, with the technology such a blockchain.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Priti. I think curiosity definitely does take you a long way in learning new things, discovering things, and staying on the path. Merrill, what's your power?
For me, it's actually knowing that nothing is impossible. If you set your mind to something, if it's something you're really interested in, you can do it. And together with that is your own best champion. Believe in yourself. Don't let people tell you who you are. You know who you are. You can drive things. You can do whatever you need to do. And you can do anything you want to do.
I love that. I think that's so applicable for those of us that are going to go back into spaces where people are going to say, you're a little bit crazy, nobody knows what blockchain is, and you're trying to convince everyone in your circle that it's the next best thing. Monica, your power.
So definitely, Merrill, if you can dream it, you can do it. That's my motto. And also, you only fail when you stop trying to succeed. I come from third world countries, Uruguay. I ran away from home. I came to South Africa during apartheid times, and I thought God punished me because I came to hell. And then, that motto that says, when life throws lemons, you make lemonade. And that's what I had to do. Start from zero. I couldn't hardly speak English, and I had to fend for myself. And look at today, and I didn't have family or anybody, so it was very hard. So the point is, there are no excuses. You just have to go for it. And if, like Merrill said, if you believe it, you can do it. And this is for the first time that I can truly believe that we have the tools to empower us to succeed in every possible way. There's no more excuses. You just have to go at the end of it.
I love that. Thank you so much, Monica. And I think the three of you ladies are definitely fantastic examples of the fact that if you work at it, if you try, if you believe it, if you dream it, you definitely can achieve it. Monica Singer, Merrill Ford, Priti Kuvanye, thank you so much for your time and joining us. Please do follow them across all social media and just watch some of the work they're doing and keep the conversation going. Before I say goodbye, I'd like to invite back onto our stage Nadia and Melissa, just to share your closing remarks, your final pointers of key takeaways that you like of everything. Write this down, keep it in your back pocket. You need to use it come next week, Monday. Melissa.
Wow, is all I can say. I've been inspired, as usual, by these Power Hug discussions. I really love the energy, the enthusiasm, the passion, the knowledge. You guys are just amazing at making these very complicated technology and terms and things so simple that even I can understand it. And I think that's important for our audience, is to really give access and give that information in a way that people can understand it, so that it doesn't cloud and doesn't become such a big mystifying thing that people are like, oh, I won't be able to do that. But actually, if you actually put the effort in, if you put the time in, and you put you work hard at anything, you can be successful. Like what Monica said, no more excuses. You've got the technology available to you, so upskill yourself, and it's now up to you. So that's what I would like to leave it this today. Thank you.
Thanks, Melissa. Nadia.
Thanks, Nsiki. Yeah, this has been such an amazing session, and I'm so grateful to everybody for taking part, and for Melissa and I. This is really something that we will continue to do. So if you want to if you feel like you have topics that you want us to run, please let us know. If you feel that you'd like to speak as well, but this is also about a network of sharing. So if you have opportunities in business that you want to do and share, this is a Power Her network. And from Seed South side, we strive to do something different in the market. We are founders and built the company ourselves. And I'm very grateful to my two partners who have been with me throughout this journey, and they're very, very cheering us on at Power Her, because they believe in female leadership on the continent. So if you're an entrepreneur and got a product in the market, please submit to Seed South Capital so we can see the talent out there in forms of startup. If you are an investor, a fund, or a research university that you have great IP that you want to share with us, please let us know. We are really looking to build partnerships in the ecosystem and bring technologies like blockchain to the forefront, becoming a beacon for science, technology, and innovation, and uplifting female leadership in STEM. So thank you so much for joining us. And yeah, that's I've loved the conversation. I'm not new to blockchain as such, but I mean, it's been a year and a half now, and I still know the tip of the iceberg, but I feel it, that it's fundamentally going to change the wealth distribution. And for me, that's so important, is the wealth distribution, not just job creation.
And if I may just jump in there for a last comment. So just Nadia mentioned the Talent Hub, And I just wanted to say that Women in Tech have created a talent hub, which is essentially a job board for women and girls around the world to go and see what's available, what's accessible, what job opportunities are out there. That's in the link I've shared in the comments, which is just talent.women-in-tech.org. So if you want to either post jobs that then hopefully will be filled by our diverse mass group and global movement of women around the globe, then please get in touch with myself or post jobs on our talent hub. We are going to be launching it officially on the 7th of March. So I'm really excited to be joining another online panel on the 7th of March, celebrating Women's Month and Women's Day on the 8th of March. So lots of more Women in Tech events to come. So go to our events page if you want to also find out what other events you can join. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Nadia and Melissa. Before you guys jump off, I'd like to encourage you just to go through the chat for a bit. I've seen a lot of people have shared links and resources and their LinkedIn profiles. So please do head over, click through, copy, save, open them in a new tab, but make sure that you have those resources and you can utilize those to unpack blockchain for yourself, start teaching yourself, and grow in this space. And I think Zerli and Kaylee said it really well. Zerli said, thank you for this awesome opportunity to link with like-minded people. And that's exactly what the Power Her Africa Conversation Series is about. And Kaylee said that she is a junior, I think, blockchain developer, and this has been an eye-opening session for her. And that's exactly what we come together to do, to be part of a community of like-minded people, to support one another, to share knowledge, information, insights, but more importantly, to be able to grow women and close the gender gap and divide across the continent and, of course, across the world. My name is Nsiki Nkide. Thank you so much for your time and joining us in this fantastic conversation. I know we're like 5 minutes over, and I think we've done pretty well with the fact that this is such a huge topic and there's so many things we could unpack and go into greater detail in. So thank you so much to our panelists for joining us today. Thank you so much to Women in Tech, and thank you so much to South Capital for creating this fantastic platform and space for conversation. And we will see you next month on another exciting edition of Power Her Africa.
Thank you so much. Cheers.